Hello, my name is Kale Gish, and this is a PowerPoint presentation on my service learning project at Schreiber Pediatrics. So this is an introduction of my service learning project at Schreiber Pediatric Rehabilitation Center. This is an agency that specializes in outpatient rehabilitation for pediatric patients, including physically and mentally disabled children. Populations served would be children. Some of them they go from infant to 18 years old. They have services for young children as well as teenagers with Down syndrome and other mental disabilities. They have summer camps for these kids. They provide physical and occupational as well as speech therapy. And they have daycare and preschool classes for younger children. There are many needs for this population. Education, as well as I mentioned, physical, occupational, and speech therapy. And we'll get into some more of those needs later on in the PowerPoint. These are just some pictures of Schreiber Pediatric. The one on the upper right-hand side of the screen is the preschool class where I did the majority of my service time, and the teacher up in the front of the class is Jay, who was my main contact for the service learning project, and this is one of the class sessions that he led. There you can see speech therapy would be on the left upper hand side of the screen, and then some of the occupational and physical therapy gyms are also shown, and kids working on those. So some healthcare professionals' roles socially and culturally for pediatric patients. Two that I thought of for social roles for the healthcare provider is as nurses, we are mandated reporters of any suspected abuse for child populations or minors, as well as like vaccinations. We have a role socially to protect against communicable diseases that we can with vaccines. Some cultural concerns for healthcare providers is that we should be providing culturally competent care for all patients. Child rearing may be different between different cultures, so we should keep that in mind when taking care of children. We should have interpreters and not just rely on sometimes the children are the one who are bilingual and the parents are not. We should be educating the parents with interpreters and not through the children to ensure that the parents are having proper education as well as the children. And there may be religious considerations that go along with taking care of pediatric patients. So now we'll look at the healthcare professional's role economically and politically. So there are several political systems that are set up to protect children. A couple of them are mentioned here. WIC is a program to ensure that children have food and nutrition services. CHIP is instated so that children are ensured that they have health insurance, and then Medicaid and Social Security for disabled children can also help. And those work with economically as well, a lot of those systems. One thing that Schreiber does is that they have decreased cost of service for physically and mentally disabled children. So now we're going to start talking a little bit more about my actual project that I did. How I implemented this was I got into contact with Schreiber's volunteer program director, who got me into contact with Jay, who was the preschool lead teacher, and he sort of set up when and how I would assist with the preschool classes. So I participated in the preschool programs in the morning and the afternoon on Fridays for, I believe, 6 weeks. During that time, I assisted with facilitation of classroom activities. 1 week was their swim lesson, so I participated in that. And I also, when I was available, I assisted with the infant and toddler daycare programs, which just consisted of mainly helping with lunch for the toddlers, and I helped rock some of the infants during their nap time. So that was also a good experience. Some project revisions that I would have had was, I think I would have participated, which I will talk about some of this stuff later on. I would have participated in show and tell earlier, which I did end up doing, but I think I could have done a couple other ones that would have been good for the kids. And I also would have maybe helped plan a group center time, which I did help lead those, but I never actually planned one myself. So I think those were 2 revisions to my project that could have made it better. So here were my student objectives for my service learning time. I'm not going to read them all out to you guys, but the main point of the first one is that I was to assist the teacher with the facilitation of classroom activities. I would participate in therapeutic play with children in preschool classes, which included reading and learning how to better interact with children of this age. That's the second one. And also and the third one was to identify several effective teaching techniques for children in preschool with physical and mental disabilities. So this is the slide about the completion of the objectives. So here I assisted with the facilitation of centers. This was like a group time where the students were split up into groups of 2 or 3, and some weeks I was helping them do something called conceptual cards, where the children would try and put, they're sort of like puzzles for the kids to do. So I would help with that. 1 week I read the group a story about bones, which was nice that I could help educate the preschoolers about something in the medical field. I also played games with them and other activities like that. Helped during the group lessons, helped keep the kids focused while the teacher was going over the lesson for the day or reading the book. This mainly consisted of making sure that all 4 of their legs of their chair was on the ground at all times, and I realized how difficult it is to keep the attention of 10 preschool age children at the same time. I assisted in preparing the snack for the children. I did assist the 1 week with the swim lessons, which was a really fun time. They have a pool at Schreiber, and each of the students in the class has an adult that they swim with, so we actually got into the pool and for about an hour or so, they went over swimming, and they got to jump off the side of the pool, and then also just got to play with pool toys for a little while, which was really fun, and the kids really enjoyed doing that. I got to read books with the children, which was the second objective. So I did read the book about the bones. I also read nap time stories for the toddler class too when I helped out there, as well as just during free time that the children had during the class. Some of them I would read books with when they asked me to. Another thing that I would do is there was a leapfrog computer that the kids could play with, and so sometimes I would play with them and help them learn the alphabet through the leapfrog computer. And I was amazed at how quickly the kids could learn through that computer system. For the second one, just again, play with children during free time, including building trains, doing puzzles, and playing with Legos, which this was really fun to do, and I really enjoyed playing with them when I could. So completion of objectives continued. So I did get to participate in show and tell. On my last week, I brought in my stethoscope to show the children, and I think they really enjoyed this. And I let them listen to their hearts and lungs, and they really seemed to enjoy that. One thing that I did notice was how hesitant some of the children with mental disabilities were about putting on the earplugs, but they did do it, and they enjoyed doing it as well. Another way that I completed the last objective, which was learning how to teach children with physical and mental disabilities, was I got to witness the use of a Toby device, which is a device for a nonverbal child that they could communicate by tracking their eye movement on the screen, and it would choose words for them. So we would go over colors with this one girl who was nonverbal, and she would attempt to communicate to us what the color was, or what color she wanted us to put on a block tower or something like that. I got to observe the incorporation of play and physical therapy so I learned techniques about how to train children just to walk upstairs by having a goal like a marble chaser component at the top, where they would grab that, come down, and they build a roller chaser, and then that was good motivation for them to do the exercise. Social cues story. This was for a child who was very disruptive in class. The teacher made a story with pictures of the child doing good behaviors during certain components of the class, and he would read this book to the child 2 or 3 times a lesson for months, and till I got there, the child had the entire book memorized, and the teacher said that you could really tell a difference in the child's ability to interact in the class, and was much better behaved because of that. So some impacts on me personally from doing the service learning. I learned about interacting with preschool age children. I got enjoyment out of watching the children learn and participate in school. Learned how children interact between disabled and non-disabled children, and how inclusive they were of each other, and how well they got along together. And I also realized the amount of work and the amount of help that it's needed to raise a disabled child. Some impacts professionally. was that I learned how to better educate children about procedures being done in the hospital. I feel more comfortable taking care of preschool age children as a nurse, and more comfortable taking care of physically and mentally disabled children as a nurse. Thank you so much for listening to my PowerPoint, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.